What happens when one of Britain's most respected actors sits down for what should be a friendly chat, only to face question after question that crosses every line imaginable? In just 35 seconds of biting comments, a morning television host managed to push Dame Judy Dench too far, resulting in one of the most shocking walkouts in daytime television history. The studio lights were bright that morning. Judi Dench walked onto the set with her usual grace, smiling warmly at the audience. She had been doing interviews for decades. She knew how these things worked. A bit of small talk, some laughs, maybe a story or two about her latest project. Nothing unusual, nothing complicated, but what was about to unfold would be anything but normal. Lorraine Kelly sat across from her, grinning widely as the camera started rolling. The audience clapped. Judi settled into her seat, crossing her legs and smoothing down her dress. She looked relaxed. She looked ready. But there was something in Lorraine's eyes that morning. Something sharp. Something that suggested this was not going to be the usual warm conversation viewers expected. "Dame Judy, welcome." "Welcome," Lorraine began, her voice dripping with enthusiasm that felt just a touch too forced. "So wonderful to have you here. Really truly wonderful." "Thank you for having me," Judi replied warmly. "It's lovely to be here." "Now," Lorraine continued, leaning forward slightly, "I have to ask. You've been acting for what, about 100 years now?" The audience laughed nervously. Judy's smile tightened. "Just a fraction," she said with a polite chuckle. "But yes, I've been fortunate to work for many years." "Fortunate indeed," Lorraine said, and there was an edge to her tone now. "But let's be honest, at your age, how much longer can you really keep doing this? I mean, aren't there younger actors who deserve the spotlight?" The studio went quiet. Someone in the audience gasped. Judy's expression shifted. The warmth in her eyes dimmed. She sat up a little straighter. "I'm sorry," she said carefully. "Are you suggesting that there's an age limit on passion, on creativity?" Lorraine waved her hand dismissively. "Oh, come on. Don't be so sensitive. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You've had your time. You've won your awards. Maybe it's time to step aside and let the new generation have a go." Judi blinked slowly. She took a breath. "I wasn't aware that acting was a competition where people take turns," she said, her voice measured but firm. "I work because I love what I do. Because I still have stories to tell." "Stories to tell," Lorraine repeated almost mockingly. "Right. Well, speaking of stories, let's talk about your personal life. You've been married twice, correct?" "I'd rather not discuss my personal relationships," Judi said quietly. "Oh, but the public wants to know," Lorraine pressed. "Your first husband passed away. Tragic, really? And then you remarried much later. Some people might say you moved on rather quickly, wouldn't they?" Judy's face went pale. Her hands gripped the armrest of her chair. "That is an incredibly disrespectful thing to say," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "My personal grief is not entertainment for your show." "But you're a public figure," Lorraine shot back. "You don't get to pick and choose what people talk about. You put yourself out there, so you have to accept the consequences. There's a difference between being a public figure and having my private pain turned into gossip," Judi replied, her voice stronger now. "What you're doing right now is cruel." Lorraine shrugged. "I'm just asking questions. If you can't handle a few questions, maybe you shouldn't be doing interviews." The audience was completely silent now. Everyone could feel the tension building. This was not playful banter. This was not a misunderstanding. This was deliberate. This was mean. Judi took another breath. "I've been in this industry for a very long time," she said slowly. "I've done interviews with hundreds of journalists, some good, some less so, but never in all my years have I encountered such blatant rudeness disguised as journalism." "Oh, here we go," Lorraine said, rolling her eyes. "The Grand Dame act. You know what, Judi? Just because you've got a title in front of your name doesn't mean you're above criticism. Doesn't mean you're special." "I never said I was special," Judi countered. "But I do expect basic human decency, and you're not showing any." Lorraine leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. Well, I think you're being overly dramatic, which I suppose makes sense given your profession. Always performing, always needing attention. Judy's jaw tightened. You invited me here, she said. I came in good faith. I came to talk about my work, to connect with people who might enjoy what I do. I did not come here to be insulted. Insulted? Lorraine laughed a harsh sound. Oh, please. If you think this is insulting, you've lived a very sheltered life. I'm just being honest. Someone needs to be. Honesty without kindness is just cruelty. Judy said quietly. Spare me the philosophy lesson, Lorraine snapped. You know what I think? I think you've been coddled for too long. Everyone kissing up to you because of who you are. Well, not here. Not on my show. Here, we keep it real. Judy shook her head slowly. This isn't real. This is manufactured conflict for ratings. This is you trying to create a moment at my expense. Maybe you're just not as interesting as you think you are, Lorraine said coldly. Maybe I have to push a little to get anything worth broadcasting. That was it. That was the moment. Judy stood up. She carefully removed the microphone clip to her dress. She set it down on the chair with deliberate precision. The entire studio watched in stunned silence. Where do you think you're going? Lorraine asked, sounding almost amused. I'm leaving, Judy said simply. I will not sit here and be treated with such contempt. Oh, come on, Lorraine said, gesturing dismissively. Don't be so dramatic. Sit back down. We're not finished. Yes, Judy said firmly. We are. You're really going to walk off my show? Lorraine asked. And now there was an edge of panic in her voice. Do. You know how this will look. I know exactly how this will look, Judy replied. And I'm willing to accept that. What I'm not willing to accept is another moment of your disrespect. This is ridiculous, Lorraine said, standing up now, too. You're being completely unreasonable. I was just doing my job. Your job is to interview people, not to attack them, Judy said. There's a difference, and you clearly don't understand it. The producers were moving now. People rushing around behind the cameras. Someone was trying to signal to Lorraine to stop, to de-escalate, but she wasn't looking at them. She was staring at Judy with a mixture of anger and disbelief. Fine, Lorraine said loudly. Walk off. Run away. Show everyone what a coward you are. Judy paused. She turned back slowly. A coward? She repeated softly. You think standing up for myself makes me a coward? I think you can't handle a real conversation, Lorraine said. I think you've spent so long being treated like royalty that you've forgotten what it's like to be challenged. There's a difference between being challenged and being bullied, Judy said. And what you've done here today is bullying, pure and simple. Oh, bullying, Lorraine scoffed. That's a bit much, don't you think? No, Judy said. I don't think it's a bit much at all. You've questioned my age, my career, my personal relationships, my grief. You've suggested I'm too old, too irrelevant, too sensitive. You've done all of this while pretending it's just honest conversation, but it's not. It's cruelty. Lorraine crossed her arms. If you can't take the heat, get out of the kitchen. I've been in the kitchen my entire life, Judy said. I've handled heat that would make you crumble. But I don't have to stand here and let you burn me on purpose. You're making this into such a big deal, Lorraine said, her voice rising. It's just television. It's just a chat. Why are you being so difficult? Because you made it difficult, Judy said. From the moment I sat down, you've been looking for conflict. You've been pushing and prodding, trying to get a reaction. Well, congratulations. You got one. I'm leaving. You'll regret this, Lorraine said sharply. People will think you're difficult to work with. They'll think you're a diva. Judy smiled sadly. Let them think what they want. I'd rather be thought difficult than stay somewhere I'm not respected. She turned and walked toward the exit. The audience didn't know whether to clap or stay silent. A few people started to applaud, uncertain and scattered at first, but then more joined in. It grew louder. People were standing up now, showing their support. Lorraine's face went red. "Oh, wonderful," she said sarcastically into her microphone. "Give her a standing ovation for walking off. That makes perfect sense." But Judi didn't turn around. She kept walking, her head held high, her steps steady. She had dignity. She had grace, and she was not going to compromise either of those things for a television show. As she reached the edge of the set, one of the producers tried to intercept her. "Dame Judy, please. Can we just talk about this? Maybe we can start over." Judi stopped and looked at the young woman kindly. "I appreciate that," she said gently. "But no, what happened out there was not an accident. It was a choice, and I'm making a choice, too. I'm choosing to leave." "But the show," the producer stammered. "We still have 20 minutes left. Then I suggest your host learns how to fill time without tearing people down." Judi said she wasn't angry at the producer. Her voice was calm, almost sympathetic. "I'm sorry you're in this position truly, but I won't be part of it." Back on set, Lorraine was trying to regain control. "Well, that was unexpected," she said to the camera, forcing a laugh. "I suppose some people just can't handle a frank discussion. We'll take a quick break and be right back." But as the cameras cut away, her expression changed. The forced smile dropped. She looked panicked. The audience was murmuring, talking among themselves. Some were shaking their heads. Others were getting up to leave. One woman in the front row called out, "That was disgraceful. You should be ashamed." Lorraine tried to ignore it, but more voices joined in. "You were horrible to her. She deserved better. How could you be so mean?" A producer rushed over to Lorraine. "What were you thinking?" he hissed. "You just drove off one of the most beloved actors in Britain." "I was trying to make good television," Lorraine said defensively. "By attacking her," the producer said, "by insulting her. That's not interesting. That's just nasty." Lorraine's hands were shaking now. The reality of what had happened was starting to sink in. She was being too sensitive, she said weakly. "No," the producer said firmly. "You were being too harsh, and now we have a massive problem." Meanwhile, Judi had made it to her dressing room. She sat down slowly, her hands still trembling slightly from the adrenaline. She had never walked off a show before, never in her entire career, but she had also never been treated like that before. "Not like that." There was a knock on the door. "Come in," she said quietly. Her assistant entered looking worried. "Are you all right?" Judi nodded. "I am. I think it was the right thing to do." "It absolutely was," her assistant said firmly. "What she did out there was appalling. Everyone's talking about it already." "Are they?" Judi asked. "The audience members are posting online. They're on your side completely." Judi sighed. "I didn't do it for sides. I did it because I couldn't stay." "I know," her assistant said gently. "But people see that. They understand." Back on set, the break was ending. Lorraine was touching up her makeup, her hand unsteady. The producer was in her ear. "You need to address this when we come back. You need to explain." "Explain what?" Lorraine said irritably. "That I asked a few questions and she couldn't handle it." "You need to apologize," the producer said. "Apologize?" Lorraine's voice went shrill. "For what?" "For doing my job. For being cruel," the producer said bluntly. "Because that's what you were, cruel." The cameras were about to roll again. Lorraine straightened up, took a breath. When the red light came on, she looked directly at the camera. "Welcome back," she said, her voice tight. "As you saw, Dame Judy Dench chose to leave our conversation early. I want to be clear that I have enormous respect for her work and her career." But even as she said it, the words rang hollow. The damage was done. The moment was captured, and everyone watching knew exactly what had happened. They had seen a host push too far. They had seen an icon stand up for herself. They had seen dignity triumph over ratings. In her dressing room, Judi was gathering her things. She didn't watch the rest of the show. She didn't need to. She knew what she had done was right. She had drawn a line. She had said enough is enough. And in doing so, she had reminded everyone watching that respect is not optional, that kindness matters, that being a public figure does not mean accepting abuse. Her assistant helped her with her coat. Ready to go? Judi nodded. Ready? They walked through the back corridors of the studio, avoiding the main areas. As they passed by a monitor showing the live broadcast, Judi caught a glimpse of Lorraine still on screen, still trying to salvage the show. She looked uncomfortable. She looked like someone who had made a terrible mistake and was only now beginning to understand the consequences. Judi didn't feel triumphant. She didn't feel vindicated. She felt tired. Tired of having to defend herself. Tired of having to prove her worth. Tired of being treated as though her age or her privacy or her feelings were fair game for entertainment. But she also felt something else. She felt proud. Proud that she had stood up. Proud that she had walked away. Proud that she had not compromised who she was for the sake of a television show. As they reached the exit, a few crew members were waiting. They started to clap quietly at first, then louder. They had seen what happened. They knew. One of them, a young camera operator, stepped forward. Dame Judy, he said. I just wanted to say that took real courage. What you did in there. Judi smiled at him. Thank you, she said softly. But it shouldn't take courage to expect basic respect. That should be the baseline. You're right, he said. It should be. Judi walked out into the cool morning air. The street was quiet normal. The world kept turning just as it always did. But something had shifted, something important. She had shown that there are lines that should not be crossed, that there are boundaries that must be respected, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply walk away. The interview that was supposed to last an hour had ended in less than 15 minutes. The questions that were supposed to be friendly had turned hostile. The conversation that was supposed to celebrate a legendary career had instead become a masterclass in how not to treat your guests. But in those 15 minutes, something else happened, too. People watching at home saw what real dignity looks like. They saw what it means to stand up for yourself. They saw that being kind is not the same as being weak. And they saw that sometimes the person who walks away is not running from a fight. They're choosing not to participate in one. Judi got into the car that was waiting for her. As they pulled away from the studio, she looked back one last time. She thought about Lorraine still in there, still trying to finish the show. She didn't feel angry anymore. She felt something closer to pity because Lorraine had been given a gift that morning. She had been given the chance to sit down with someone extraordinary, someone with decades of stories, wisdom, experience, someone who could have made her show memorable for all the right reasons. And she had thrown it away. She had chosen conflict over connection. She had chosen ratings over respect. And in doing so, she had created a moment that would be remembered, yes, but not in the way she had hoped. The car drove through the London streets. Judi closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them again, she felt calm. She had done the right thing. She knew it in her bones. And that knowledge was worth more than any interview, any publicity, any moment of fame. Because at the end of the day, you have to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. You have to be able to live with the choices you make. And Judi could live with this one. She could live with it very well indeed.